Most men believe that talking to women is about saying the right words. They believe attraction is created by clever sentences, emotional openness, compliments delivered at the right moment, or by proving value through explanation. That belief is precisely why they lose respect before the conversation even begins. Because long before a woman processes your words consciously, her nervous system is already reading something else. Your pace, your breath, the tension in your jaw, the urgency behind your tone, the way your body leans forward as if asking for permission to exist. And in that silent reading, most men betray themselves. They speak quickly, they fill pauses, they over-clarify, they justify intentions that were never questioned, and without realizing it, they transmit a single message beneath every sentence. I need something from you. That need is felt before it is heard, and once it is felt, attraction collapses. Because desire does not respond to words, it responds to position. What I'm about to reveal is not a technique, not a script, and not a trick. It is a silent psychological law that governs how attention, respect, and influence are formed, and once you see it, you will never speak the same way again. Be honest with yourself. At what exact moment in past conversations did you feel her interest fade? And what do you think your body, not your words, was communicating right then? Most men talk from the outside in. They focus on what to say, how to say it, and how to adjust when they sense resistance. The strategist speaks from the inside out. Because Machiavelli understood something that modern men have forgotten, language is not a tool for expression. It is a tool for governance. You are not exchanging sounds. You are establishing invisible hierarchy. And hierarchy is never negotiated verbally. It is felt. When a man enters a conversation seeking approval, his body tightens, his breathing shortens, his words accelerate, his tone lifts at the end of sentences, unconsciously asking for agreement. Nothing repels respect faster, not because the woman is cruel, but because her mind is wired to follow stability, not anxiety. This is where most men collapse. They believe attraction is created by effort, by doing more, by explaining more, by showing more. But power has never worked that way. Machiavelli warned that the weakest position is the one that needs to be explained. The strongest position is assumed. The man who explains himself announces doubt. The man who pauses announces certainty. Your body always speaks first. Before your sentence ends, her nervous system already knows whether you are centered or reactive, grounded or seeking, leading or following. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Most men lose the frame before the first sentence is complete. They speak too fast because silence scares them. They smile too much because tension scares them. They explain because uncertainty scares them. But tension is not danger. Tension is gravity. When you remove tension, you remove polarity. The man who cannot sit inside silence without filling it unconsciously hands control to whoever can. Machiavelli never taught men to dominate through force. He taught them to dominate through positioning. And positioning begins with emotional self-governance. If your internal state depends on her reaction, you have already surrendered authority. Women do not follow arguments. They follow direction. Direction is not spoken. It is transmitted. A man with direction speaks slowly, not because he is careful, but because there is no rush. His words are sparse, not because he is mysterious, but because every word carries weight. He does not compete for attention. He regulates it. This is where most men misunderstand silence. They think silence means absence. In reality, silence is pressure. A well-placed pause forces the other mind to move. The insecure man fears silence because he thinks he will disappear. The centered man uses silence because he knows his presence expands inside it. When you stop reacting, the other person begins adjusting. This is not manipulation. This is physics. Emotion seeks equilibrium. When a woman changes tone, tests boundaries, or shifts mood, she is not confused. She is measuring. She is asking one silent question. Does his center move when mine does? If you react, she leads. If you remain steady, you lead. Machiavelli understood that whoever controls reaction controls the scene. The conversation is not won by dominance. It is won by non-reactivity. The moment you stop trying to convince, something shifts. Convincing is a lower position. It implies resistance. Attraction does not emerge from resistance, it emerges from contrast. When intensity meets calm, calm becomes magnetic. When emotion meets structure, structure becomes authority. This is why trying harder never works. Effort leaks need. Need leaks weakness. The man who speaks from sufficiency never needs to prove anything. His tone drops, his movements slow, his words become fewer, and suddenly the room reorganizes around him. She listens differently, not because he is louder, but because he is anchored. This is the first internal shift. Stop trying to control the conversation. Start controlling the emotional axis it rotates around. Because language only amplifies what already exists inside you. If you are anxious, your words beg, even when they sound confident. If you are centered, your words command, even when they are few. Machiavelli never separated internal order from external power. A man who cannot govern himself cannot govern perception. Once you understand this, you stop asking, "What should I say?" and start asking, "From what internal position am I speaking?" That question alone changes everything. But this is only the first layer. Because once emotional control is established, something even more dangerous emerges: the power of economy. And that is where most men lose the game without realizing it. Most men believe that more words equal more connection. They believe explaining themselves creates understanding. They believe openness creates closeness. Machiavelli would have called that a fatal misunderstanding of power. Because power is not built through excess, it is built through precision. Every unnecessary word is a leak. Every over-explanation is a confession. When you talk too much, you reveal your map, your fears, your desires, your expectations. Predictability kills respect. A woman does not follow a man she can fully read in one conversation. She follows the man who leaves mental space unresolved, not because mystery is manipulation, but because the mind naturally moves toward what is incomplete. Silence forces projection. Projection creates involvement. The man who speaks selectively controls rhythm, and rhythm controls attention. This is where the deeper Machiavellian principle appears, the frame. The conversation is not defined by what is said. It is defined by the ground it stands on. Who sets the emotional temperature? Who defines the pace? Who decides when tension is released and when it is allowed to breathe? Most men enter conversations adapting, responding, mirroring. They wait for signals before acting. That is submission disguised as politeness. Machiavelli warned that the one who adapts too much becomes dependent on the will of others. The dominant frame is established when your internal state does not negotiate with external reactions. You are calm whether she is warm or cold. You are grounded whether she engages or withdraws. You remain unchanged whether attention is given or withheld. That stability becomes gravity. She does not consciously decide to follow your frame. Her nervous system simply relaxes inside it. This is not arrogance, this is structure. A man with structure does not chase emotion. He contains it. He does not need to escalate. He allows escalation to come to him. And consistency is everything. You cannot be centered one moment and reactive the next. Authority collapses instantly when the axis moves. Every pause, every delayed response, every refusal to over-explain reinforces the same message. I am not negotiating my position. This is what creates psychological leadership. Leadership is not dominance, it is orientation. People follow what feels stable. The final layer is strategic mystery. Not hiding, not playing games, but never revealing everything. You answer, but not fully. You respond, but not immediately. You engage, but not desperately. The female mind is not attracted to possession. It is attracted to pursuit of understanding. When she has to think, she invests. When she invests, attachment forms. At this point, the dynamic has already shifted. You are no longer participating, you are directing. The conversation is no longer about words, it is about emotional alignment. This is the true secret behind the title. It was never about dominating her mind. It was about dominating your own emotional center. Control yourself, and the interaction organizes naturally. This is not manipulation, it is mastery. When you stop needing, you start attracting. When you stop reacting, you start leading. When you stop asking, you start receiving. The anxious man speaks to be chosen. The centered man speaks to set direction, and direction is irresistible. This is the Machiavellian truth most men never hear. Power is not demanded. It is felt. The man who governs his breath, his pace, his silence, and his emotional axis never needs to raise his voice, because by the time he speaks, the frame is already his, and once the frame is yours, the mind follows. Not because it is forced, but because it finally feels safe inside strength. That is the transformation, from reactive to centered, from seeking to directing, from explaining to being. And once you cross that line, you never speak the same way again, because now you are no longer talking to be heard. You are speaking from power.